Still processing the stories about his rivals, Liu Shang stood in the vast arena with his arms crossed, thinking to himself that the starry sky was so large it truly contained all sorts of strange and powerful people. He then reflected that he was also technically a transmigrator who had been reborn. However, he felt his own situation was vastly different from the rumored Chan Yu Chu, who seemed to have come with his own powerful cultivation system built in. Turning to Lan, Liu Sheng asked him to keep a close eye on this mysterious individual. Wan, looking at his holographic tablet, replied that he would have done so anyway. He explained he was also interested in the man, as his mysterious nature had already attracted the attention of higher-ups in the star system. If Shan Yu Shu hadn't decided to participate in the tournament, they would have had no information on him at all. Liu Sheng considered this and concluded that if Chan Yushi was competing, it was likely because he needed the resource rewards, meaning he probably wasn't as wealthy in resources as Liu Sheng himself. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light erupted from Liu Sheng's chest, materializing into a glowing card that floated before him. Lan explained that Liu Sheng's identity card had just been generated, meaning the draw for the semifinal matches had officially begun. A cage of golden light then formed around Liu Sheng. Looking around, Liu Sheng saw countless similar pillars of light shooting up all over the arena and realized each one must be a contestant being assigned to their match. He reached out and took his card, which instructed contestant Liu Sheng to proceed to arena W4985. Just then, Lan looked at his holographic screen with a shocked expression, exclaiming that the list of contestants assigned to Liu Sheng's arena had just been released. Lan's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at his screen. He quickly told Liu Sheng he had been placed in a group with 3 level 11 warriors, calling it a troublesome situation. He asked if Liu Sheng wanted to see their profiles. However, Liu Sheng remained calm and simply replied that it wasn't necessary. Still concerned, Lan offered Liu Sheng a pair of holographic combat glasses, insisting he should wear them as they would surely be helpful. Liu Sheng just stared at the glasses, silent and unimpressed. Before Lan could insist further, Liu Sheng was enveloped in a pillar of light and teleported into the arena, leaving a stunned Lan calling out his name. Left alone, Lan looked on worriedly. He couldn't understand the grouping, thinking that with 3 level 11 fighters, it seemed as if Liu Sheng was being deliberately targeted. A moment later, inside the vast coliseum, 10 pillars of fire erupted from the ground, signifying the arrival of the 10 contestants. Liu Sheng stood calmly amid the other warriors, his hands in his pockets, looking composed. From a floating platform, a flamboyant announcer with blonde hair excitedly addressed the massive crowd. He declared the first round of the semifinals had begun and that all seeded contestants from the 12-star sectors were now in the arena, whipping the audience into a frenzy. The crowd, filled with various alien species, roared with excitement. The announcer then pointed dramatically towards the arena, singling out one fighter. He shouted that this was the most talked-about contestant, the first super genius with an immortal-grade transcendent physique to appear in the 12-star sectors in a million years. After a dramatic pause, he boomed the name for all to hear, Liu Sheng from the sub-Jupiter sector. All eyes turned to Liu Sheng, who stood calmly in the center of the arena as everyone's expectations fell upon him. As Liu Sheng was announced, his family and friends erupted in cheers. His sister, Qing He, jumped up and down with a fan, excitedly shouting for his big brother. Snowy and their father looked on proudly. Elsewhere, in a dark, messy room, Lan Cheng and Zhao Lin watched the same broadcast. Lan Cheng shot up from the couch, fists clenched in rage as he recognized Liu Sheng on the screen. In a much more luxurious setting, President Sebastian stroked his beard while Ecclesia stood silently beside him, both watching the events on a large screen. In another location, a mysterious shadowy figure watched the broadcast alone, a cigarette dangling from their lips. Back in the arena, Liu Sheng was the center of attention. The other 9 contestants couldn't help but stare and whisper amongst themselves. One large horned warrior and a purple-haired elf stood together surprised. The elf mentioned that when he first saw the group list, he thought it was just someone with the same name. The horned warrior agreed, admitting he was startled. A confident green-haired elf looked over at Liu Sheng with a smirk, thinking she had run into the immortal right from the start. The rest of the warriors also fixed their gaze
On him, their faces a mixture of curiosity and competitive fire. Standing calmly amid the scrutiny, hands still in his pockets, Liu Sheng wore a faint, knowing smile. He thought to himself that it seemed he had become the target for everyone. The announcer, his hair now fiery red under the lights, continued hyping the crowd. He passionately asked what incredible power an immortal-grade physique truly held, and told the audience they would find out by watching Liu Sheng's opponents. Floating above, he laid out the stakes, 3 level 11 fighters and 6 level 10 fighters, while Liu Sheng himself was only level 10. He dramatically questioned whether Liu Sheng could withstand the onslaught and advance, urging the crowd to watch. Below, the other 9 contestants glared at Liu Sheng with confidence and aggression. Watching from the stands, Lan slammed his hands on the railing in frustration. He cursed, wondering where the organizers found such an idiot for an announcer, and complaining that this was a blatant attempt to screw Liu Sheng over. His face was etched with anxiety. The round was a 10-person battle royale with only one winner, meaning there were no pre-assigned opponents. However, the announcer had deliberately turned Liu Sheng into the common enemy of the other 9. Lan realized with fury that Liu Sheng would now be forced to fight all of them at once. He knew if Liu Sheng failed to win under these impossible circumstances, the reputation of his immortal-grade bloodline would be greatly diminished. Lan wasn't the only one who understood the dire situation. However, aside from him and Liu Sheng's family, no one else seemed to care. In their viewing box, Liu Sheng's family watched with extreme tension. Snowy, Qinghe, and his mother clasped their hands in worry, while his father clenched his fists, their faces pale with concern. In stark contrast, the rest of the audience was ecstatic. They would have been thrilled to see Liu Sheng fight not just 9 opponents, but 100. The crowd's emotions were ignited, and they roared like wild animals with a frenzied, almost bloodthirsty energy. Perhaps what this massive crowd truly hoped for was to witness the genius, Liu Sheng, bleeding and defeated in the arena. In the arena, the contestants began to discuss the situation. The large-horned warrior noted it seemed the organizers wanted them to join forces and attack Liu Sheng. He then stated that he didn't mind, and the purple-haired elf beside him added he was also curious to see how powerful an immortal-grade bloodline was. As a green aura emanated from her, the female elf thought about the legends she'd heard. That transcendent beings could easily defeat higher-level opponents, and wondered what that meant for the immortal grade. With a malicious grin, the purple-haired elf's body erupted in crackling violet energy. He declared that with the 3 of them at level 11 and the others at level 10, it wouldn't be bullying, justifying their group attack. The horned warrior then slammed his massive glowing sword into the ground, shattering the floor with a shockwave. Now enveloped in a raging blue aura, he roared his agreement, shouting for everyone to attack together. The remaining level 10 fighters also decided they should eliminate Liu Sheng first, since he was the one made to stand out. Watching them all power up, Liu Sheng's lips curled into a confident grin, his eyes glowing faintly. He thought to himself that it seemed everyone was eager to test the power of an immortal-grade warrior. The 9 contestants then encircled him, weapons drawn and auras flaring, ready to launch a coordinated assault. As his 9 opponents closed in, Liu Sheng had a small thought. Well then, in the next instant, he crouched down and a colossal explosion of golden electrical energy erupted from his body, shaking the arena. A wide manic grin spread across his face as his eyes glowed with power. He told them they would get exactly what they wished for. The 9 other contestants were violently thrown back by the force of his aura, their faces frozen in disbelief as they wondered how it was possible. One fighter screamed that his high-end combat glasses, with a detection limit of 1 million, had been overloaded by the energy spike, leading them to question Lu Shang's true strength. Before they could process it, Lu Shang stomped his foot hard on the ground. The impact unleashed a devastating shockwave, repelling all 9 warriors and sending them flying helplessly into the air. The powerful horned warrior, now completely immobilized, could only think in despair, wondering if they had been defeated before the fight had even begun. The announcer stood frozen in shock. He stared at the empty arena floor, where only Lu Shang stood amid the debris, and stammered that he had cleared the field in a single move. He was so stunned that he could only utter a confused "huh" into his microphone. Ignoring the stunned silence of the stadium, Liu Sheng calmly held up a single finger. He addressed his defeated opponents, informing them this was the best and perhaps only chance they would ever have to defeat him. With a final confident grin, he issued a challenge, telling them to do their absolute best and try with all their might to beat him. This is the end of the video. If you want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Lu Sheng stood alone in the center of the shattered arena, hands casually tucked in his pockets as a faint glow surrounded him. The entire stadium was in an uproar. The crowd, who just moments before had been eager for a bloody fight, were now on their feet, screaming in utter shock and disbelief, questioning what had just happened, and calling his feat of clearing the stage in a single blow completely outrageous. In their private viewing box, Ecclesia and Sebastian were equally stunned. Sebastian's jaw was agape, while Ecclesia's eyes widened, a blush appearing on her cheeks as she exclaimed that this was the true power of an immortal. She continued, her voice filled with awe, declaring that he possessed the posture of a king, a perfect representation of his immortal bloodline. From his spot in the stands, Lan stared down at the lone figure of Lu Sheng, completely speechless. After a moment, a wide, relieved grin spread across his face. He laughed, realizing how ridiculous his earlier worries had been. He now understood that this was the true, overwhelming power of immortality. Countless experts watching were filled with fervor. Lu Sheng's dominance, strength, and the terror he inspired perfectly matched the image they had in their minds of an immortal-level bloodline. In his family's viewing box, Chingy cheered with unrestrained joy, waving her fan and shouting at her brother, telling him he was incredibly strong and cool. His parents looked on with tears of pride in their eyes. His mother marveled at how exceptional and unique their son had become, while his father simply repeated, "Go, son," with a beaming smile. The martial saints from their home planet, including Lin Zhengyu, were also left speechless by the display. Lin Zhengyu clasped her hands together, thinking to herself that even on a stage as vast as the starry firmament, Master Lu still shone with a dazzling and radiant light. Standing beside her, Snowy simply gazed at Lu Sheng with a look of pure admiration and affection, whispering to herself how well he had done. Lu Sheng stood as a supreme being, a figure who broke the rules and shattered common sense, the only one of his kind in millions of years. On the edge of the arena, his defeated opponents slowly began to pick themselves up. One of the warriors, grunting with effort, struggled to his feet, gritting his teeth with blood trickling from his mouth. He couldn't comprehend what had just happened, wondering in disbelief how they could have lost without even getting a chance to attack. Another fighter hung his head in absolute shame, cursing the fact that a level 10 warrior had defeated them so utterly that they couldn't even stand in his presence, overwhelmed and completely outmatched. One by one, they raised their hands in defeat, their voices echoing in the now silent arena as they surrendered. Finding his voice again, the announcer erupted with renewed energy. He pumped his fist, shouting that the battle had ended the very moment it began, declaring that this was the authentic, overwhelming power of the immortal level. With a final, dramatic flourish, a holographic sign appeared, proclaiming Lu Sheng as the first victor. The announcer roared, asking who could possibly stand against him and telling the crowd to eagerly await the next battle. Meanwhile, on another battlefield, a very different scene was unfolding. The entire arena and all the contestants within it were completely frozen in thick, jagged ice. Floating above the frozen devastation was a powerful, hooded figure with 6 white wings. He summoned a colossal, ethereal dragon made of pure ice and crystal that coiled in the starry sky above him. With a final surge of power, he unleashed a massive explosion of frost that flash froze the entire battlefield in an instant. Another announcer reported the result from that arena, shouting that Monroe from the Hill Star sector had also won, sweeping the field with a single technique, just like the contestant Lu Sheng had done moments before. The winged figure, Monroe, hovered silently, his face partially obscured by but his piercing blue eyes were visible, glowing with cold power. A smirk played on his lips as he thought to himself with anticipation, expressing that he was already dying of impatience to face Lu Sheng. In another of the tournament's matches, a warrior in full armor wreathed in flames brandished her sword with determination. With a powerful battle cry, she unleashed a massive slash of fire, declaring that today she would test the power of immortality to forge her own glory. Lu Sheng continued to compete step by step, advancing through the second and third rounds with overwhelming ease. No opponent could counter his blows, and he won his fights as if they were nothing but a light breeze. However, despite his dominance in the arena, there was one person whom Lu Sheng had no idea how to deal with. That person was the tournament announcer, the One. The announcer seemed to have him in his sights. Every time Lu Sheng entered the arena, all the cameras would focus on him as the announcer shouted as if on adrenaline. As the announcer celebrated another win for Lu Sheng and asked him to smile, a comically drawn, annoyed Lu Sheng thought to himself that he really wanted to just punch him and get it over with. From the stands, Lan watched the scene with Lu Sheng alone in the arena and the announcer floating above. With a satisfied smile, Lan remarked that Lu Sheng had passed the 3 semi-final rounds with complete ease. He reflected on the state of the tournament. There were just over 40 competitors left, all of them level 11 warriors or higher. Despite being a lower level, Lu Sheng had treated all his opponents as if they didn't exist. Lan concluded that the power of immortality was even more terrifying than he had imagined. Elsewhere, Sebastian and Ecclesia were also. Observing Ecclesia commented that Lu Sheng had already earned everyone's respect. No one dared to underestimate him, and his probability of winning the championship had now surpassed even that of Monroe, who was originally the top favorite. Sebastian, stroking his beard, thoughtfully added that the one-on-one matches were next, where the contestants would truly face the strongest beings from each star sector. Just then, an official announcement instructed all competitors to check their identity cards, where their next opponent would be revealed. Lu Sheng pulled out his card, looking at it with curiosity. His expression changed to one of surprise when the card displayed the face of his next opponent. It was Bing Long. The tournament announcer, with his usual energy, enthusiastically announced the next match. He declared that the first battle of the 4th round of the semi-finals would be an interesting internal talent showdown from the Yamuxing, Sub-Jupiter Sector. Lu Sheng versus Bing Long. Upon hearing this, the crowd erupted into a roar of excitement. In the arena, the 2 warriors faced each other. Lu Sheng stood with his hands in his pockets, completely relaxed, while Bing Long, her hand near the hilt of her sword, stared him down. With a confident expression, she told him that this time he had no excuses to escape. Lu Sheng responded with a faint smile, asking her if she didn't get tired of pretending like that. Surprised, Bing Long sharply asked him what he was talking about. He then explained what he meant, that even though she was clearly scared to death on the inside, she was still pretending she wanted to fight him. He asked if it was really okay for her to deceive herself that way. His words caught her off guard, leaving her visibly flustered for a moment. However, she quickly tried to cover her nervousness with a forced laugh, flatly denying his accusation and asking in disbelief if he really thought she was afraid of him. Her expression twisted into a wild, almost manic grin. She claimed she wasn't afraid of him, but was rather worried that he wouldn't be able to handle a few of her pranks, and would end up being embarrassed in front of his parents and family. Lu Sheng watched Bing Long with complete indifference, as if he were watching a clown with a terrible act. Whether she was truly afraid or not was something that perhaps only Bing Long knew in her heart. Enraged by his words, Bing Long shouted at Lu Sheng, denying she was ever afraid of him and claiming she had been waiting a long time for this fight. With a final battle cry, she launched herself at him, enveloped in a powerful blue aura. She unleashed her ultimate technique, the dance of illusory swords, summoning dozens of glowing blue energy swords that swirled around her before hurling towards Lu Sheng in a massive barrage. Lu Sheng, however, simply watched the incoming attack with a calm, unimpressed smile, a faint golden aura beginning to glow around him. As the swords reached him, he moved with impossible speed, his golden energy flaring as he effortlessly countered and shattered each blade that came near him. With a simple flick of 2 fingers, he broke apart one of the main energy swords, neutralizing her attack completely. Bing Long could only stare in utter shock and disbelief, unable to comprehend what was happening. In the next instant, Lu Sheng appeared directly in front of her, his fist crackling with concentrated fiery energy. He asked her if she got the idea now. Seeing the overwhelming power gathered in his fist just inches from her face, Bing Long's expression turned to one of pure terror. Before the punch could land, she screamed that she surrendered. Lu Sheng stopped his attack instantly, the immense force of it still visible in the air around them. He then gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Leaning in close, he gave her some advice, telling her that the next time she had to endure such force, she should be careful to control her muscles and heart rate. He then added that for the time she had invited his family to a meal, he was now returning the favor, leaving her completely flustered and confused by his words. The overwhelming experience was too much for her, and she collapsed to her knees, trembling and utterly defeated. Lu Sheng turned and walked away with a serene expression, leaving the defeated Bing Long kneeling on the ground behind him as she muttered his name in awe and disbelief. This video ends. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
As Liu Sheng calmly walked away from the arena after his victory, the announcer was momentarily speechless, a look of astonishment on his face. However, his surprise quickly turned into explosive euphoria. He shouted into the microphone with boundless energy, proclaiming that it was one punch, another one. He explained that even against a genius of Bing Long's caliber, Liu Sheng only needed a single blow to end the battle. The announcer, whose image was projected on massive holographic screens all over the stadium, continued to hype up the incredible result to the roaring crowd. He reminded them that Bing Long was a peak-level 11 warrior with an extraordinary physique, and yet she couldn't withstand Liu Sheng's attack for even a moment. He wondered aloud if the immortal bloodline was truly so overwhelmingly powerful. A spectator commented in amazement that it was all so fast. They didn't even get a chance to see what kind of powers Bing Long had before she was defeated. Meanwhile, in the arena, Bing Long remained standing, her head bowed, completely dejected by her crushing defeat. With a mischievous smile, the announcer abruptly changed the subject. He mentioned the word speed, and, to everyone's surprise, used the moment to launch into a commercial break. With great enthusiasm, he introduced a new tonic developed by a major corporation, holding up a box with a picture of a kidney on it. He claimed the product greatly enhanced a certain male ability and that its effects lasted for an astonishing 30 days. The audience's reaction immediate. immediate. Lan jumped up furiously, shouting and asking who the hell let that idiot on stage. Rayolan watched the scene with a look of deep irritation. He thought to himself that not only had the host deliberately incited the others to attack Liu Sheng, but now he dared to run an ad for male enhancement products at an event of this magnitude. Next to him was Ecclesia. Rayolan explained to her that he had already complained to the propaganda department, but they told him this host was specifically chosen by a major sponsor, and furthermore, the audience seemed to enjoy this kind of show. Ecclesia, clearly annoyed, put a hand to her forehead and thought about how stupid the whole situation was. As Liu Sheng stood in the waiting area after his victory, a communication request came through. He accepted the call, and a holographic screen appeared, showing his sister, Yui Qingya. Her face was pressed against the screen with excitement as she exclaimed how incredibly strong her big brother was. Her enthusiasm was almost overwhelming, and she eagerly asked when he would teach her his techniques. Her face reflected in his eyes. Internally, Liu Sheng reflected on the situation with a sigh. He thought to himself that he had always tried to be a low-key and polite person, but it seemed that from then on he had no choice but to continue being in the spotlight. He looked down with a faint smile and then looked up with newfound resolve. He concluded that there was no other way. In order to put his family's worries to rest, he would have to defeat each of his opponents as quickly and decisively as possible. Following Liu Sheng's match, the next pair of contestants entered the arena. One was a man with pointed ears from the Xuanyuan star sector, and the other was a woman from the Zilin star sector. Both were described as renowned super geniuses. Their battle was incredibly fierce and lasted for more than 10 hours, a stark contrast to the brief fight between Liu Sheng and Bing Long. The intensity was on a completely different level, with massive explosions of energy rocking the arena. Liu Sheng watched the match with interest, as this was the first time he had closely observed a battle between such high-level, transcendent beings. The fight ended with the female genius from the Zilin star sector emerging victorious after a spectacular final clash. The battle had been so destructive that the entire asteroid-sized arena was left shattered and in ruins, forcing the tournament organizers to quickly dispatch repair crews to fix the damage. The announcer, then joined by a female co-host, passionately commented on the epic battle, successfully igniting the crowd's emotions and whipping them into a frenzy. The audience was ecstatic, with many declaring that this was what a true semi-final match of a tournament spanning 12 star sectors should look like. They felt the earlier fight between Liu Sheng and Bing Long had been over so quickly that it made them wonder if it had been a fixed match. From his seat in the stands overlooking the newly repaired arena, Liu Sheng reflected on the previous battle he had just witnessed. He concluded that he had gained some valuable insight. The power of transcendent physiques was on a completely different level compared to ordinary stellar races, as their very life essence and biological structure were far more perfect. It was like two paper boats on the water. One boat had to start rowing slowly, while the other was gently pushed by a bar of soap, which was enough to trigger a warp drive and send it to light speed, illustrating the vast difference in potential. This realization led him to a confident conclusion about his own abilities. He felt that his own power systems, the stellar body and the sun god sphere, were of an extremely high level, and at least within these 12 star sectors, he had yet to see anything stronger. The tournament, which he had initially thought would be boring, had suddenly become much more interesting, as it was a perfect opportunity to witness the clash of various different power systems. Just then, his attention was caught by a striking woman with flowing red hair and a sleek blue suit walking down a nearby corridor. A dark, ethereal energy swirled around her as she moved with a powerful presence. Liu Sheng's eyes widened slightly in curiosity, and he turned to ask who she was. Next to him, Lon smiled, replying that he had just been about to introduce her. Lon explained that the woman was Gei Lei, a member of the Blue Pole Demon Flame family from the Black Lin star sector. She possessed a high-grade transcendent physique and was at the peak of level 11, making her one of the key opponents they needed to watch out for. Liu Sheng observed her, noticing that her unique blue flames were the complete opposite of his own stellar flames. While his were dominant and explosive, hers were cold, corrosive, and enchanting. He found her power system fascinating and thought that if he got the chance, studying its structure could provide unexpected insights and help him on his own path. Meanwhile, the announcer returned to the stage, declaring that the arena repairs were complete and the next match was about to begin. He dramatically introduced the next contestant as a notorious space pirate, a man who had once single-handedly slaughtered an entire fleet and famously frozen an entire star with his bare hands, a name that echoed throughout the Hill star sector. After a dramatic pause, he pointed to the sky. A massive holographic screen appeared, displaying the profile of the most exceptional genius in the history of the Hill star sector, the ice demon, Monroe. The crowd erupted into a thunderous roar, chanting his title over and over again. Ice demon, ice demon, ice demon. Seeing the crowd's wild reaction, Liu Sheng turned to Lon, asking if this Monroe was really so famous. Lon explained that when Monroe first rose to prominence, his title of Ice Demon had been known far beyond just the Hill star sector. The genius of 5 or 6 surrounding star sectors had been completely overshadowed by his brilliance. Lon added that until Liu Sheng appeared, Monroe had been the most anticipated genius, having accomplished many unbelievable feats, making him a truly formidable figure. Liu Sheng then asked if the story about him freezing an entire star was true. With a thoughtful expression, Lon admitted there was likely some exaggeration to the tale. He speculated it had probably been a very small, dying star. However, he quickly added that even so, it was an incredible achievement. He had never heard of any other level 11 warrior capable of such a feat, and he warned Liu Sheng that Monroe's power was not to be underestimated. Just then, Monroe made his grand entrance, descending into the arena with his massive, angelic white wings spread wide. His opponent, a muscular warrior with spiky hair, stood ready. He shouted Monroe's name, preparing to challenge him, but his voice faltered as he began to tremble uncontrollably. Monroe didn't move. He simply stared at his opponent, his single visible eye glowing with an intense, cold blue light. In the next instant, without any warning, a massive pillar of ice erupted from the ground beneath the opponent, instantly encasing him in a solid block of ice, freezing him completely solid in the middle of the arena. The announcer, watching the scene unfold, was left sweating and stammering, remarking on how utterly arrogant and overwhelming the display of power had been. The announcer, recovering from his shock, officially declared Monroe the winner. He shouted into the microphone that Monroe had completely frozen his opponent with just a single glance, questioning how anyone could fight against such an overwhelming power gap. This incredible feat immediately sent a wave of speculation through the crowd. The consensus was that Monroe must have already advanced to level 11, otherwise such immense power would be impossible. Spectators began to whisper amongst themselves, discussing the rumor that Monroe had reached this legendary level. The realization sank in across the audience. One person commented that if it was true, there was no point in continuing the tournament, as Monroe was guaranteed to be the champion. Another agreed, wondering who could possibly stand his way. They dismissed the idea of even Liu Sheng winning, noting that, despite his immortal bloodline, he had only just reached level 10, putting him 2 entire realms below Monroe. Down in the arena, Monroe looked up towards the stands, his gaze fixing directly on Liu Sheng and Lon. With a look of intense focus, he sent a silent, telepathic message to Liu Sheng, telling him that he would be waiting for him. Liu Sheng stared back, his expression unreadable but filled with equal intensity. At that moment, a massive holographic display in the sky updated the official win probabilities for the remaining top contestants. Before Monroe's match, Liu Sheng's probability was at 50%. Then, after Monroe's overwhelming display, the odds shifted dramatically. Liu Sheng's probability plummeted to 30%, while Monroe's soared to 70%. Lon shivered, remarking on how truly powerful Monroe was and admitting that just being glanced at by him had been enough to make his hair stand on end. Lon turned to Liu Sheng with a serious expression and asked him if he was confident he could win against Monroe. Liu Sheng simply replied that he didn't know. Surprised by his blunt honesty, Lon put a friendly arm around Liu Sheng's shoulder. He advised him that even if he wasn't confident, he shouldn't say it so openly, as it could be seen as fear before the fight had even begun. Then, Lon tried to comfort him, reminding him that it was okay if he lost to Monroe, who was much older and more experienced. He reassured him that with his immortal bloodline, he was destined for greatness and would inevitably surpass Monroe in the future, so he shouldn't feel too much pressure then. However, Liu Sheng, with a bead of sweat running down his temple, explained his reasoning. He told Lon that he had said he didn't know because he genuinely didn't. He confessed that he still didn't know the true extent of his own power, and it was clear that what Monroe had shown so far was only the tip of the iceberg. He concluded by asking a simple logical question: how could you possibly compare 2 unknown variables? This video ends. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
After Monroe's overwhelming display, the tournament continues, but no other contestant can match the spectacle he created.
The other fighters in the audience are still shaken, unable to forget the power and terror in that single devastating glance. Reflecting this, Monroe's official win probability on the prediction charts continues to climb, eventually reaching an astonishing 95%. An announcement for the next match cuts through the tension. The next battle will feature Chen Yushu from the Zealand Star Sector. The name immediately catches Lu Sheng's attention. This is the mysterious rumored reincarnator that Lan had told him about. Intrigued, Lu Sheng leans over the railing to get a better view. Down in the arena, Chen Yushu stands calmly among 9 other contestants in another 10-person battle royale. He has green-blue hair and a braid and is dressed in a traditional-style tunic, a calm grin on his face as a powerful green aura envelops him. With his hands behind his back, he discreetly concentrates his energy, forming a crackling green sphere of power at his fingertips. In an instant, he unleashes a devastating barrage of green energy blasts, catching all 9 opponents by surprise as they wonder what kind of attack this is. The blasts strike with incredible force, sending the other warriors flying. They cry out in agony, with one exclaiming the attack felt as if it had pierced their soul. With the arena cleared, Chen Yushu stands calmly amid the bodies of his defeated opponents. He turns, and a final wisp of energy curls around his fingers before dissipating. Watching from the stands, Lu Sheng's eyes widen in shock and recognition. He realizes what he has just seen, questioning to himself if that was sword energy fired from the fingertips. This incredible display of power only deepens the mystery surrounding Chen Yushu. Lan confirms Lu Sheng's observation, explaining that he's correct. He clarifies that Chen Yushu doesn't even possess a transcendent physique, but his spiritual power is incredibly strong and his fighting style is unique. A small, intrigued smile plays on Lu Sheng's lips as he finds the situation interesting. Lu Sheng wonders if the rumors are true, and if Chen Yushu is really a reincarnated expert from another universe. His thoughts then turned practical. He muses about how such a unique individual hasn't been captured for research. He thinks that if he gets the chance, he should study him to see if he can improve his own martial arts. The tournament moves on. The announcer takes the stage again, excitedly informing the audience that the preliminary rounds have concluded, leaving only 24 contestants. He declares that the 5th round is about to begin. In his next match, Lu Sheng once again demonstrates his overwhelming power. He effortlessly knocks out all his opponents in a single move, showing that ordinary level 11 warriors are no match for him. While the audience is stunned by Lu Sheng's power, his victories are so swift they almost feel expected. His popularity continues to rise due to his spectacular fights. However, many spectators still believe Monroe is the stronger of the two, discussing amongst themselves that despite Lu Sheng's strength, Monroe is still their favorite. Lu Sheng stands alone on the arena platform, arms crossed, looking on silently after his victory. Internally, he has a moment of comic reflection. He admits to himself that Monroe's dramatic and flashy methods are undeniably impressive. A chibi version of him thoughtfully wonders if he should adopt a similar, more theatrical approach. During Chen Yushu's match, Monroe watched with great seriousness, a look of intense interest on his face, recognizing a worthy rival. Following his own impressive victory, Chen Yushu's win probability on the prediction chart soars, coming close to Monroe's. While not reaching 95%, his support rate is a formidable 71.2%, solidifying his position as a top contender. The announcer stands triumphantly before a massive holographic display, declaring the end of the 5th round. The screen shows the current top 3 favorites to win. Monroe leads with an overwhelming 95% support rate. Chen Yushu follows with a strong 72%, and Lu Sheng is third with 16.1%. Just as the crowd absorbs the information, the announcer gets a devious look, telling everyone he almost forgot one more important thing. The audience looks on, confused. To everyone's groans, it's another commercial. He enthusiastically holds up a pixelated bottle shouting about watching non-stop matches can be tiring and promoting an energy drink to stay refreshed. Watching this, a chibi version of Lu Sheng is comically impressed. A loud vibration shakes the ground, jolting him back to reality. His communicator rings, and he sees a call from his sister, Qingya. She appears on the screen, beaming with excitement. She tells him his fight seemed way too easy, complaining that before she can shout her support, he has already knocked everyone out. She continues, explaining that despite how short his fights are, the billions back on their home planet, the Blue Planet, are going wild. The tournament is being broadcast everywhere, and everyone thinks it's 1,000 times more exciting than the World Cup. A scene shows people back home cheering him on, shouting, "Go, Martial God!" Hearing this, a warm, proud smile spreads across Lu Shang's face. He holds up his phone as if taking a selfie, thinking this means the Blue Planet has finally connected with the rest of the starry sky. On the other end, Liu Shang's mother and sister Qingyi express their concern. His mother pleads with him not to force himself if he can't win, pointing out the prediction rates are not in his favor and they are worried. However, the family's mood is divided. Qingyi clenches her fists and tells her brother he must teach that arrogant Monroe a lesson. His father, also fired up, agrees, while his mother tries to quiet them. Speaking more calmly, his father advises his son to listen and concede if he has to, reassuring him that what he has already accomplished is enough. His mother adds that the ice demon is terrifying, having frozen people with a glance. With a confident smile, Lu Shang reassures his family, telling them not to worry. He explains that Monroe only appeared so strong because his opponents were far too weak, and that in reality, he isn't as formidable as he seems. His family watches him on a large screen as he tells them with a grin to watch closely, promising to beat Monroe into a pulp. Elsewhere, Snowy also watches the broadcast. Her expression is serious and filled with concern as she clenches her hand, silently urging him to be careful. Lu Shang, sensing her worry, looks on with a gentle expression and softly promises that he will be. After comforting his family, Lu Shang arrives at the arena for the first round of the finals. The 14 remaining contestants have gathered. These 14 warriors are the best of the best from across the 12-star sectors. Just then, his phone rings again. He answers, asking what's wrong. It is Lan, and his voice is filled with urgency. He frantically tells Lu Shang he is sending him the complete profiles on all remaining fighters, and that he has just received confirmation. Both Monroe and Qian Yushu have indeed advanced to with a grave tone. Lan urges Lu Shang to be mentally prepared. He advises him not to force a fight if the odds are against him, reminding him he is still young with a long future. Lu Shang calmly replies that he understands and ends the call. He stands among the other champions, his expression thoughtful. He reflects on the news, thinking about the challenge of a level 12 opponent. Then he compares this threat to the level 13 corpse puppet he once fought in the dream space, wondering how a level 12 would stack up against that, revealing a hidden confidence from a battle no one else knows about. With a grand gesture, the announcer roars into the microphone, declaring that the first round of the finals has officially begun. The tournament kicks off with a fierce battle between two powerful warriors. Their swords clash in a brilliant explosion of teal energy. One fighter, a man with blue hair, concentrates his power, his blade glowing. He then unleashes a devastating slash, sending a massive wave of energy that overwhelms his opponent. The defeated warrior cries out as he is thrown backward. The victor raises his sword in triumph as the announcer declares Gabriel's from the Molo Star sector the winner, with the crowd chanting his name. Watching from the stands, Lan notes that Gabriel's has a high-grade transcendent physique and is strong enough to be a contender for the top 5. Lu Shang, however, seems completely unimpressed and lets out a massive bored yawn. Seeing this, Lan becomes frantic. He shouts at Lu Shang that his own championship win rate has dropped out of the top 5 and that he needs to pay attention. Lu Shang casually replies, "Oh, is that so?" Sweating with anxiety, Lan explains that now that they are in the finals, many contestants are revealing their true hidden strength, making the situation far more dangerous. With a slight smile, Lu Shang remarks that, looking at the situation now, his earlier words of confidence must seem like a joke. Lan, misinterpreting this as lost confidence, quickly waves his hands in a flustered panic, insisting that wasn't what he meant. As Lan looks down, disgusted, he mutters that it doesn't matter anymore. Liu Shang places a reassuring hand on Lan's shoulder, telling him that human memory is fleeting. He explains,
If you don't constantly emphasize something, people will quickly forget, leaving Lan confused. Liu Shang then turns to face him, his expression now serious and intense. He looks Lan in the eyes and asks a profound question. Lan, what kind of thing do you think an immortal bloodline is supposed to be? Liu Shang's profound question about the nature of an immortal bloodline leaves Lan completely speechless and confused. He stammers, trying to find an answer, but can't formulate a single word. Before he can respond, their attention is drawn back to the arena as the crowd erupts in a massive cheer. The announcer, full of energy, declares that the next match is about to begin, and it will feature the holder of the immortal bloodline, Liu Shang. He then dramatically introduces Liu Shang's opponent with a massive holographic display announcing Guy Lei from the Blue Pole Demon Flame family of the Black Lin Star Sector. A colossal pillar of blue and red energy slams down into the center of the arena, signifying her arrival. Lan is shocked by the display of power, while Liu Shang watches with a serious expression. Guy Lei descends gracefully from the pillar of light, her body wreathed in ethereal blue flames as she lands in the arena. The stadium goes wild, with the audience chanting Guy Lei's name in a thunderous roar. Spectators are on their feet, thrilled that they will finally get to witness a true battle between top-tier experts. The announcer feeds their energy, shouting that this is guaranteed to be a spectacular fight. In the arena, Guy Lei looks up toward Liu Shang with a confident, challenging smirk and gestures for him to come down and face her. Watching from the stands, Liu Shang meets her challenge with a slight, confident smile of his own, while Lan looks on with deep concern. Suddenly, Liu Shang claps a hand on Lan's shoulder, startling him, with his eyes now glowing faintly with golden power. Liu Shang tells Lan that he will now give him the answer to his earlier question and show him what an immortal bloodline truly is. Before Lan can react, Liu Shang vanishes in a flash of light, teleporting directly into the arena. Lan can only shout his name in a panic. Liu Shang materializes on the arena floor, landing softly and standing casually with his hands in his pockets as he faces his opponent. Guy Lei looks at him with a confident smirk, thinking to herself about his immortal-grade bloodline. A look of pure excitement crosses her face, and she muses that she finally has the chance to witness its legendary power for herself. Liu Shang, however, simply stares back at her with a completely unimpressed and serious expression. Guy Lei's demeanor shifts as she declares how truly exciting this moment is. Her body erupts in a massive swirling torrent of dark blue flames that fills the arena with a palpable pressure. Even the spectators in the stands are shocked by the intensity of her power, commenting on how incredibly strong her aura is. Her blue suit begins to transform, shifting into a formidable set of dark, regal armor. A horned crown materializes on her head, and her power continues to surge. With her transformation complete, her eyes glow with pure, cold energy as she focuses her full power. She then unleashes a massive wave of her unique blue flame energy directly at Liu Shang. Despite the overwhelming display, Liu Shang remains completely unfazed. A confident smirk plays on his lips as he asks her a simple question. If she wants to witness the power of an immortal bloodline for herself, is she prepared to shed blood to do so? Guy Lei remains silent, her eyes glowing with pure white light as she processes Liu Shang's taunt. In the next instant, she responds not with words but with an incredible display of power. A colossal surge of blue energy erupts from her body, engulfing the entire arena in a vortex of raw force. Even the spectators in the stands are shocked by the intensity of her power, commenting on how incredibly strong her aura is. The announcer is thrown back by the shockwave, shouting in absolute astonishment. As he regains his footing, he recognizes the nature of her power and screams into his microphone that Guy Lei has just been promoted. He declares that she has broken through to the next level and has now reached level 12. The crowd is sent into a frenzy of disbelief. Spectators from her home sector shout that they never imagined their champion, Gaile, would achieve a breakthrough to level 12 in the middle of the tournament. Others exclaim that it's an unbelievable feat, as she is not even 200 years old. Now fully powered up, her crown adorned with small fiery horns, Gaile stands as a natural-born battle prodigy, radiating immense power. Meanwhile, high in orbit above the planet, on a massive viewing ship, a powerful-looking man with purple hair and a matching cape watches the event on a screen. He crosses his arms, a look of appreciation on his face, as he remarks that this is not bad. Back in their private viewing box, Sebastian is completely stunned by this turn of events. He stammers in disbelief that this is yet another level 12 fighter, his face pale with shock. Behind him, Ecclesia looks on with a grim and serious expression. Watching from the stands, Lan is gripped by terror as he sees the immense power radiating from Gaile. He can only shout,
Shang's name is called, his face pale with worry. In the arena, Gaile floats effortlessly amidst the swirling vortex of her powerful blue and black aura, looking down at the seemingly insignificant figure of Lu Sheng below. With a confident smile, her eyes glowing with newfound power. She asks him if she is now finally qualified to fight the legendary immortal genius. Lu Sheng looks up at her, a faint, calm smile on his face as he exhales softly. He quietly agrees that, yes, she is. His expression then shifts to one of fierce confidence as he clenches his fist, his muscles tensing. He tells her that this is good, because now he doesn't have to worry about accidentally killing her. Enraged by his arrogance, Gaile screams and dives toward him, charging with incredible speed and force. Lu Sheng meets her charge head-on, his own body erupting in a brilliant golden aura as he concentrates his power into his fist. Their fists collide in the center of the arena, unleashing a cataclysmic explosion of blue and golden energy that rocks the entire stadium. The initial clash sends shockwaves through the arena, but neither fighter backs down. They immediately engage in a furious high-speed exchange of blows, with Gaile launching a relentless barrage of punches that Lu Sheng expertly parries and counters. Watching the incredible battle unfold, the announcer has a sudden realization. He explains to the roaring crowd that Gaile is using the immense pressure from fighting Lu Sheng to accelerate her own refinement and stabilize her new level 12 power. He clarifies for the audience that while level 11 is about mastering the rules of power, level 12 is about drawing that power into one's body to reforge the very soul of a warrior. In his private box, Sebastian watches the battle with awe, exclaiming that it's incredible. He notes that Gaile has only just entered level 12, yet she is already able to continuously perfect and fuse her power in the heat of combat. As she relentlessly attacks Lu Sheng, who blocks every blow, it's clear she is rapidly approaching the true potential of a level 12 warrior. Their battle fills the arena with brilliant flashes of light, and even the mysterious purple-haired man from the orbiting ship has come to a balcony to watch the spectacle unfold. Lan, gripping the railing, is stunned by Gaile's power. He thinks to himself that she has become so strong she now qualifies to fight even Monroe, and that a spot in the top 3 of the tournament is now guaranteed for her. Despite the ferocious assault, Lu Sheng continues to hold his ground, parrying her attacks with focused intensity. Next to Sebastian, Ecclesia observes the fight with a grim expression. She remarks that Lu Sheng isn't losing any ground. Despite the massive gap of 2 entire levels, he is not only keeping up with Gaile, but has not sustained a single injury. She concludes that the power of the immortal bloodline is truly beyond comprehension. A new figure approaches Sebastian. A tall, blue-haired elf woman with a confident smirk addresses him, taunting that it looks like your Yamuk Singh's sector's immortal bloodline is about to meet its end. She stands over him with an air of superiority, her striking form revealed. She introduces herself as the sector chief of the Hill Star sector and adds that it would be a shame to crush such a promising sapling in the cradle. Sebastian, though clearly worried, tries to defend Lu Sheng's performance. He tells the sector chief that it's perfectly understandable for Lu Sheng to be struggling, explaining that despite his immortal bloodline, he is only 20-something years old and a newly promoted level 10, while Gaile has just reached level 12. The sector chief from the Hill Star sector listens with a condescending smile. She replies that it's such a pity as she was truly looking forward to a battle between her champion Monroe and the legendary immortal bloodline. She concludes with a taunting tone that it seems she won't get to see that fight after all. Her smugness infuriates Sebastian, who thinks to himself how much he'd like to slap her for her insolence. However, as he turns his attention back to the arena, his anger fades, replaced with grim acceptance. He admits to himself that as the fight between Lu Sheng and Gai Lei continues, the outcome is becoming increasingly clear. The battle rages on, but Lu Sheng is completely on the defensive, forced to constantly dodge and block Gai Lei's overwhelming attacks, putting him at a severe disadvantage. As Lu Sheng looks down, seemingly cornered and outmatched, Sebastian wonders if this is truly the end of the line for him. This video ends. If you want to see the next part, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
The battle reaches its climax as Gerlei gathers an immense amount of power in the air. She dives towards Lu Sheng, screaming a final challenge, asking if he can possibly withstand her next attack. On the ground, Lu Sheng braces himself, his body flaring with a brilliant golden aura. Their powers collide in a spectacular explosion of blue and gold energy, and Lu Sheng is seen gritting his teeth, straining to block the overwhelming force of her assault. The tide of the battle seems to have decisively turned. In the crowd, spectators who had bet on Lu Sheng cry out in despair, convinced their champion has lost. In their private viewing box, Lu Sheng's family and friends, his mother, father, Snowy, and Xing He, watch in absolute terror. Their faces pale with worry as they grip the railing, fearing the worst. Floating above the devastation, a victorious smirk spreads across Gerlei's face. She thinks to herself that the fight is finally about to end. With a triumphant roar, she unleashes her ultimate technique, the destructive blue demon flame, sending a colossal wave of annihilating energy crashing down upon the arena. The attack impacts with cataclysmic force, creating a massive pillar of destructive energy that shatters the ground below. As the smoke and dust from the explosion begin to clear, Gerlei's triumphant expression vanishes, replaced by one of utter disbelief. She stares down at the empty crater where Lu Sheng should have been, her eyes wide with shock. She stammers, unable to comprehend what has happened, realizing that somehow he had managed to dodge her attack. Just as Gerlei processes her shock, a calm voice speaks from behind her. It's Lu Sheng, and he informs her that he didn't dodge the attack completely. He stands amidst the dissipating blue energy, his clothes slightly torn, but his body completely unscathed. Gerlei's eyes widen in pure disbelief. She questions how it's possible that he doesn't have a single scratch on him, wondering if this is the legendary defensive power of the immortal bloodline. Refusing to accept this reality, she grits her teeth and screams that this isn't her limit. She declares that she must defeat him and begins to gather her power for another assault. However, Lu Sheng simply holds up a hand, calmly telling her to wait. He then begins to explain a profound concept, stating that everything in the universe has a dark side, including flames, which are often thought of as representing only light. He continues, applying this philosophy to her power. He explains that her blue demon flame represents the dark side of fire, and thus produces the opposite effect of normal flames. His explanation only confuses and angers Gerlei. She demands to know what he means and what her family's ancient power has to do with him. She scoffs at the idea that simply understanding the nature of her bloodline's power would be enough for him to counter it. Lu Sheng responds with a calm, knowing smile, agreeing with her. He clarifies that understanding and truly deciphering something are two very different paths, with a long journey between them. Still wary and confused by his strange lecture, Gerlei demands to know what he is trying to say. Lu Sheng looks down at his hand and then back at her, his expression serious. He finally reveals his true motive, explaining that he is simply very interested in the blue flame of her lineage. That, he confesses, is why he couldn't help but study it carefully while they were fighting just moments ago. Gerlei listens, unimpressed by Lu Sheng's explanation. With her eyes glowing, she skeptically asks him what his point is. His strange behavior is not lost on the audience, who grow restless and hostile. Spectators begin to shout, questioning what he is trying to do and demanding that he either continue fighting or get out of the arena. The crowd's frustration boils over as they yell that they paid for tickets to see a fight, not to listen to him talk. They tell him to fight if he can win or surrender if he can't, making it clear they have no patience for his perceived stalling. The announcer picks up on the crowd mood, offering his own commentary. He suggests to the audience that it seems the immortal bloodline holder, Liu Shang, has lost all hope of victory and has resorted to employing other, more indirect tactics. Just as the sentiment in the stadium turns completely against him, Liu Shang looks down, a serious expression on his face. He calmly states that because of what he has learned, this battle can now come to an end. In the next instant, he clenches his fist, and a colossal surge of brilliant golden energy erupts from his body, flooding the arena with overwhelming power. Gerlei can only stare, her eyes wide with utter shock and disbelief as she witnesses this sudden and terrifying transformation. Wreathed in crackling embers and flames, his eyes now glowing a fiery yellow, he extends his hand towards her.
He tells her that he supposes he should now show her the brighter side of the light. With a final, powerful declaration, he clenches his fist and announces the name of his true power, 10 perfect martial arts. Liu Shang unleashes the full extent of his power. A colossal pillar of pure, fiery golden energy erupts from his body and engulfs the entire sand, reaching high into the sky. The light is so blindingly intense that the spectators are forced to shield their eyes, screaming that it's an absolute, incomparable brilliance, like staring directly into a star. Even Lan, who is closest to the sand, is forced to look away, overwhelmed by the sheer power and light. From within the heart of the fiery inferno, a new form takes shape, a majestic and colossal fire phoenix, its body made of pure, stellar flame. The explosion of power is so immense that it is visible from space, a brilliant star of light shining from the planet's surface. The massive fire phoenix then descends back into the arena, its immense fiery form looming over Liu Shang as if answering his call. As the phoenix descends, Liu Shang does not attack with it. Instead, he allows his overwhelming fiery energy to be absorbed directly into his own body. The power transforms him. A glowing golden symbol appears on his forehead, and his hair begins to burn like a living flame as he levitates into the air. From the stands, Lan can only stare up at the transformed Liu Shang, completely speechless and in awe of the power he is witnessing. Floating in the air, his body wreathed in divine flames, Liu Shang turns to Lan and tells him to pay close attention. With ultimate confidence, he declares that this is the true power of the immortal bloodline. With a simple, sweeping gesture of his hand, Liu Shang unleashes a colossal wave of pure, stellar fire that crashes down upon Guai. Her face twists in absolute terror, and with a desperate cry, she throws up her hands in a defensive posture. She summons the full extent of her power, shouting the name of her technique, the Blue Flame Crystal Fortress, and erects a massive wall of shimmering blue crystal to block the incoming attack. However, her defense proves futile. The immense power of Liu Shang's flames instantly causes the crystal fortress to crack, and in the next moment it shatters completely, leaving her exposed. Guai can only watch in horrified disbelief as the unstoppable wave of fire continues to hurtle towards her. The flames engulf her completely, and she lets out a final agonizing scream. As she is overwhelmed, Liu Shang's voice echoes, reminding her of his earlier warning that if she wished to test the immortal bloodline, she had to be prepared to shed blood. The immense power of the attack leaves her completely incapacitated. Her body is singed, her eyes are rolled back into her head, and she is left in a dazed, defeated state as she reverts to her normal form. The battle is over. Liu Shang appears behind the defeated Guai, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. He looks down at her and calmly comments that it appears she did, in fact, prepare herself well. Liu Shang removes his hand from Guai shoulder, and she collapses to the ground, completely unconscious. The entire stadium is plunged into a stunned silence. On the large holographic screens, spectators from Guai home sector are shown looking on in absolute disbelief, questioning how their champion could have possibly lost. The rest of the audience is equally bewildered by the sudden and shocking turn of events, wondering how the battle could have ended so abruptly.
The announcer is also left momentarily speechless by the outcome. He stammers into his microphone, marveling that the entire battle was decided in a single, overwhelming blow. Finding his voice, he then roars with renewed energy, officially declaring the winner of the match. A massive holographic sign appears above the arena, proclaiming Liu Shang from the sub-Jupiter sector as the victor. In the arena, Liu Shang stands alone, his expression calm and composed after his decisive and spectacular victory. This video ends. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Saya, still processing the sudden appearance of his twin sister, asks Pyre if their mother's family intends to back his claim to recover his inheritance. Pyre shakes her head, clarifying that aside from providing him safe transport, the family will not intervene directly in the political matter. Frustrated, Saya questions how he is supposed to reclaim his birthright when his enemies already want him dead, fearing that returning now would be like walking straight into a trap. Pyre nonchalantly states that she only followed her given instructions and knows nothing more about their family's overall plans. However, before turning away, she cryptically suggests that her brother should think carefully about whether he has any other hidden advantages he is yet to use. Left to ponder her parting words, a confused Saya initially wonders what hidden card he could possibly have up his sleeve. Suddenly, his eyes widen as a realization hits him. He quickly pulls out the mysterious scroll given to him by the witch Yin. Saya begins to connect the dots of the prophecy, noting that it instructed him to find the first person he knew, which was Pyre, and to return to where it all began, perfectly matching his upcoming trip to their ancestral homeland to reclaim what is rightfully his. However, he struggles to decipher the final clue regarding a crowned figure at the peak of the stars, wondering if it refers to his mother's influential family or a different, unknown entity entirely. Overwhelmed by the cryptic puzzle, Saya clutches his head in frustration while Tong Dun watches him with concern. Determined to find the answer, Saya abruptly stands up and orders his sister to turn the ship around, intending to go back and clear things up. Tong Dun steps in, asking if Saya really intends to return to the alleyway. Saya confirms his plan, stating he needs to confront Yin to clarify the final line of the prophecy, believing it holds the ultimate key to solving his current predicament. Tong Dun's expression turns grim, warning his friend that he is going to be disappointed. The massive warrior reveals an unsettling truth, explaining that just minutes after they had left the area, he had looked back down the street only to find the enigmatic woman and her shop had completely vanished without a trace. Tong Dun finishes by stating it was as if they had never existed in this world, leaving Saya reeling in absolute shock at the revelation. Meanwhile, on the transport ship, a fierce sparring match begins in the reinforced training room, marked by a massive, blinding clash of cyan and golden-orange energy. Pushing his limits, the elf prodigy Anong Turing unleashes a relentless barrage of powerful cyan energy beams at his high-level opponent. Despite the fierce and rapid assault, Haiji Dao remains completely unfazed, casually deflecting the intense energy blasts using only his sword. Watching from the sidelines, Liu Shang observes the explosive clash and silently praises the elf's excellent combat talent. He notes that Anong Turing's immortal-level status is genuinely impressive. He deduces that the unique green energy the elf manipulates is likely tied to a powerful law based on simulation and copying. He mentally compares the elf's abilities to a certain comic book superhero from his past life on Earth, noting the similarities in how both use green energy and rely heavily on their imagination to manifest constructs and boost their combat power. Seeing the demonstration has gone on long enough, Haiji Dao tightly grips the hilt of his weapon as intense golden energy flares around him, firmly declaring an end to the exchange. With a swift, powerful swing, Haiji Dao unleashes a devastating wave of energy that effortlessly cuts through Anong Turing's cyan attacks. The elf prodigy cries out in shock as the overwhelming force easily breaks through his defenses. Staring at the glowing blade now halted inches from his face, a humbled Anong Turing concedes defeat. He admits that the power gap between them is simply too vast, confessing he couldn't even manage to get close to the level 13 expert. Sheathing his sword, Haiji Dao reassures the young prodigy that he will bridge that gap in time. He offers constructive advice, suggesting that the elf should abandon his flashy, superficial tricks and focus his training specifically on refining his strongest, core techniques to significantly boost his overall combat power. Grateful for the guidance, Anong Turing places a hand over his chest and respectfully thanks Haiji Dao, acknowledging that he had been considering that very approach and has learned a great deal from the sparring match. Stepping forward, Lu Shang casually asks Haiji Dao if the experienced warrior was able to identify the specific type of law that the elf manipulates. Pondering the question, Haiji Dao explains that many laws possess highly complex traits that defy simple summaries. He admits he can only roughly sense that the law is able to temporarily modify the environment, but the exact mechanism remains unclear.
The nature of Anong Turing's power, but lacks the ability to describe it with absolute precision. Anong Turing asks Haiji Dao for his honest assessment, wondering if the instructor considers his specific law to be powerful. Haiji Dao explains that laws form the fundamental operating basis of the universe, so no law is inherently weak. Instead, a law's true strength is entirely determined by how deeply a warrior masters and develops it. To illustrate his point, Haiji Dao uses the concept of planetary gravity. He explains that gravity is not just a simple force, but a universal physical law capable of causing massive destruction or sustaining a stable environment, depending entirely on how it is applied. Still curious, Anong Turing presses further, asking whose law is ultimately stronger between himself and the instructor. Internally, Haiji Dao acknowledges the harsh truth that laws definitely have distinct tiers of power, and the absolute gap between them can be massive. As Lu Sheng steps forward to take his turn, Haiji Dao mentally notes that Lu Sheng's law of thunder is naturally an extremely dominant and powerful law. By comparison, he knows the elf's green law suffers from a crushing natural disadvantage, but he chooses to keep this to himself to avoid completely demoralizing the young prodigy. Shifting his focus, Haiji Dao readies his stance and asks Lu Sheng if they should begin their match. With his eyes glowing a fierce golden yellow, Lu Sheng calmly confirms that he is ready. As intense golden and fiery energy erupts around him, Lu Sheng strategizes internally. He reminds himself that this is merely a sparring match, not a fight to the death. He reflects on his 7 emotions blade technique, which fuses 2 emotional laws and is lethal enough to easily slaughter level 13 beasts. Lu Sheng decides against using his strongest attacks, fearing that unleashing them would accidentally kill the instructor. Taking a horizontal floating stance across the room from his opponent, he resolves to carefully hold back and measure the output of his lesser techniques, hoping that will be sufficient for the spar. Crackling with golden lightning, Lu Sheng confidently warns the older warrior to be careful and advises him to stop the match immediately if the pressure becomes too much to handle. Gripping his sword as his purple aura flares, Haiji Dao is initially insulted by the warning. He silently scoffs at Lu Sheng's arrogance, finding it ridiculous that he, the designated main instructor, is being told to watch his back by a student. However, Haiji Dao's annoyance quickly fades into nervous apprehension as he breaks a cold sweat. He suddenly recalls that Lu Sheng isn't just a talented rookie like Anong Turing, but a genuine battle-hardened expert who has successfully killed a level 13 general-class beast. Realizing the true threat he faces, Haiji Dao decides to take the sparring match seriously. He powers up, gathering a dense, swirling aura of dark purple energy around his legs as he prepares his assault. Seeing his opponent finally unleash his power, Lu Sheng's eyes glow with an intense golden light as he mentally notes that the fight is finally about to get interesting. Lu Sheng responds by unleashing his own overwhelming aura. The intense energy burns away his upper garments, revealing a glowing sunlight crest on his chest, with volatile white and golden flames whip wildly around his muscular physique. Wasting no time, Haiji Dao lunges forward, his purple energy flaring aggressively as he closes the distance. He swings his blade with tremendous force, executing a devastating high-level technique designed for absolute slaughter. The strike manifests as a colossal, blinding construct of destructive purple energy that illuminates the entire reinforced training room. The massive energy beam crashes directly into Lu Sheng, completely engulfing him in a point-blank explosion. However, as the destructive energy begins to dissipate, Lu Sheng is entirely unharmed,
wearing a confident, mocking smirk. Hai Ji Dao's confidence shatters into pure shock. He stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend how his ultimate attack failed to inflict even a single scratch on the younger warrior. Standing tall amidst the fading remnants of the attack, Lu Sheng's dominant golden aura flares even brighter, showcasing the terrifying durability of his supreme physique. Instantly going on the offensive, Lu Sheng rockets high into the air, surrounded by a chaotic, swirling vortex of multicolored elemental energies, blending fire, lightning, and pure cosmic power. Drawing his glowing fist back, Lu Sheng prepares his counterattack, channeling the profound laws of his 4 seasons martial arts technique into a single concentrated strike. He descends upon Hai Ji Dao like a blazing meteor, bringing down his fist, staring up at the overwhelming godlike display of power about to crush him. A terrified Hai Ji Dao loses all of his confidence.
Previous composure, screaming in sheer panic as the devastating attack closes in. This is the end of the video. If you would like to watch the next part, please subscribe to our channel.